Ageism, bridging the gap between Generation X, Millennials, and Generation Z. For those of you who don't know, ageism is a stereotyping or prejudice against a certain group based on their age. Due to society's perception of this group, they can be overlooked in many ways, such as employment, or be discriminated on media platforms. Therefore, society's prejudice toward this group, which is typically seniors, can decrease their welfare significantly. There are five main generations in the last century. Gen Z is a current generation which includes everybody born between 1996 to this day. And millennials are Gen Y. They were born between 1977 and 1995. Gen X, 1965 to 1976, and then baby boomers, which is 1946 and 1964. That's a generation that's like typically being affected right now as seniors. And then there's traditionalists or silent generation born 1945 and before. And the baby boomers were born after World War II. That's why they're called the baby boomers, because they were just a lot of people started having babies after this event, and these birth years for each generation may differ due to the modernization and significant events of certain places. Gen Z is known as a generation of influencers and true digital natives because of how culture diffuses through trends, and ever since we were born, we have been around the internet and technology. The world is more interconnected than ever, and modern technology with the ever-evolving world, such as faster transportation and communication with phones, is what mainly separates us from other generations like X, which for most of us is our parents. And there are just a few facts There are just a few facts and statistics that concern the topic ageism. Most of them have to do with age, and the last bullet point talks about having a positive mindset about aging and can affect how long you actually live. And I interviewed my AP Human Geography teacher, Mr. Nesbitt, on his thoughts about ageism solely because I believe he had lots of knowledge about the topic. And being the teacher that he is very perceptive and notices a lot of other things people may not notice about ageism and our environment around us. He talks about how it's a very real thing and affects employment in later ages heavily, as well how there is more pressure to stay employed because the cost of living has increased, with pension systems decreasing in most areas, so you need more income. And however, he can also see the other side of the story, like how employers view young workers as cheap and possess a high work ethic, meaning they'll work harder. And he also gives an example of old members of the school administration blowing off lockdown drills simply because they didn't grow up living with concerns such as school shooting as we do now, which basically shows the difference between our generation versus previous generations before us. And I also have a book reference called I'm Not Done by Patty Rocks, and she talks about her personal experience with discrimination in the workplace and mentions how others also feel the same way. And throughout her book, she emphasizes change. And these are a few quotes that show how she talks about what exactly companies are doing that gives a prime example of ageism and how ageism targets a certain generation. So, for example, she talks about disturbing trend of companies ousting older veteran employees in favor of younger ones. It actually happened to her. Shows how she was ousted out of a company just because she was old in replace of a younger worker. This is a detailed list of the problems with ageism, mainly regarding the mental toll it has on the body, such as less life expectancy and how it causes a sense of uselessness, which may lead to depression and even Alzheimer's brain disease, which affects your memory. And even young people who frown upon seniors and the fact of aging are less likely to experience healthy aging because of their mindset. This is a list of initiatives we as a society have taken to bridge the gap of age among our peers and to lead a more equal society where everybody feels needed. And this includes changes of infrastructure such as ramps instead of stairs to be more suitable for seniors who can't maneuver well on their own, and programs that interconnect all generations to help us better understand each other and dismantle the age boundary. And we also have exercises that help the youth gain a better idea about aging and the struggles to make sure they stay aware and develop healthy thoughts about what they think about becoming old.